Okay, so we're going to mount our lower bracket. This is what the tower for the BPT rests on. You have a cap head that goes through the foot. That's going to be an 8mm hex. And so we line it up. You have these two holes in the cabinet. You also find this backer plate that's going to go in here that the bolts will run through to support. So we'll start our foot, washer and nylock, and get everything started before tightening anything down. These are hex bolts. It's going to be a 17 socket or wrench to fit these. Spacing is off. Flip this guy around. Here we go. So we have a washer and a nylock for each one of these. Started. So 17 socket, 17 wrench. There is no torque spec on any of the bolts. We just tighten them up. They're nylocks. Get my wrench in here. And our lower bracket is installed, ready to put the tower up. Okay, so to mount the tower for the BPT, we have our plate mounted here, which we just did. And on the bottom of the plate here and the bottom of the tower, there's one hole. We're going to run a bolt through. This also has a nylock locking nut that goes on it. Both the nut and bolt are 17mm hex. So we'll get that started. Then you have two here, and there's also a little spacer plate or block that goes between the tower plate here and the cabinet. Then you have this plate that goes inside that's actually threaded, so we don't have to try to reach inside here to put the nylocks or anything on to tighten. It's still a little tight, but definitely makes it easier. Okay, tighten these. From there. For the tower, next will be mounting the arm. All right, so want to install our articulating arm here. You have a screw that locks the pin in place, so we will remove that. Set that to the side. Pin should slide right out. Then we have our shim pack here, and what we want to do, get the arm in here, try to keep it as level as possible, and see how our shims line up. Generally, you are not going to use all of them. This one is looking tighter than usual. Let's give this a try. I think I can get one more. I just kind of feel around the ID here to try to get the shims where they need to be. If it's a little stiff, kind of bouncing the arm a bit can help move these around. take the pressure off. And once we have everything lined up, we should be able to drop our pin in here. Okay, so once we have our pin in, we have our screw that locks it. Make sure you're lined up with the threaded hole here. We insert that, tighten up with a 6mm Allen wrench. And our arm is shimmed and installed. You want to check for play. You really shouldn't have much, if any, but you want to make sure it still swings freely too. Okay, so once we have our arm up here mounted, we have the airline to run. There's a hole in the top of the tower here. The airline will drop into. There's plenty of room, pretty large hole. And then you'll see we have a hole through down here. So we'll want to feed our airline down to that point. So we see it here. And we'll just go ahead and push it through the other side to feed it around the machine. And we run our airline out of that hole. You'll need to remove a black cap here. And we fed it through a hole inside the cabinet. We were able to fish this through. If not, you may need to remove the rear cover so that you can get direct access to this. But it fed through fairly easy for us. And what we'll be doing with this airline is we have our incoming line back here that runs all the way towards the front of the machine. And this is off our oiler. And we're going to want to cut this line, and we will be fitting the line with this T and reducer. This is a 6mm line. The line inside the machine is 8. Cut. Make sure we're square, well, round. Push till it kind of clicks in. Make sure this is round as well, no burrs sticking out the edges. Then we will connect that. And now we have airline to our helper arm. Okay, so we removed our inflation box because there's not enough clearance with the arm up. We want to retain the screw and nut that attach the box to this plate. It's not necessary to remove this bracket. You can if you like. It's just 2 cap head screws, 5mm Allen wrench will remove those. But the kit does come with a plate to remount it to this tower. We have these 2 holes here, which we actually had to tap. It's an M6 by 1. And you'll get these 2 screws that thread in here. These also use a 5mm Allen key. So we'll get this mounted up. We will get our 5mm Allen. Snug these guys up here. No torque specs to follow or anything like that. So now our airbox, this here just fits over the top edge. Literally just hangs there. Then the original screw and nut that we removed from the bracket on the machine will line up with the hole in this plate. Put our washer and nut on. Again, this is another M6 Allen screw. It'll use a 5mm Allen key. The nut on the back side is a 10mm wrench that will fit. So we snug that up. And now our air box is relocated. So now that we have our airline ran, airbox mounted, the arm is basically complete. We need to install our foot. There are 3 holes and you get this spring clip that hold it in. Generally, I'll just go for the second hole, but it is adjustable. It just pops in there. And then we want to check our arm out on the flexibility and the airline. We can see here, this is stretching a little bit when we fold the arm. So what we would want to do is pull a little bit of slack out of here and double check that the line is no longer being pulled tight and it's loose so that we don't get any kinks or broken lines.